Parker presents. From the team that brought you Angel's Awakening. After 100 years, Henry Hatcher is awoken to fight his mortal enemy. But he is not alone. Guardian Angel.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello, and
Welcome.
welcome to a special 100th special episode thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's try that again. Welcome to the 100th episode of Critique Corner with me, DB Fastbinder.
And me, Daniel Parker. Yes, and we've got a real special show tonight. We'll be joined in about an hour from now with our guest, Edwin Acevedo. We'll be talking about his new book, The Ace Volume 3. But yeah, so we do kind of have our usual scheduled show tonight. We got a couple of good,
we have a couple of movies of some sort.
Of some sort, yes. And yeah, but so I guess we should get into that here.
Well, I guess before we get started, I just wanted to say, if you've been tuning in, if you're subscribed, if you watch our videos, I just want to say that I really do appreciate you coming along. It's been an interesting journey here where we went from giving writing advice. At least I wasn't, it was pretty egotistical of me to do that at the time, but I was feeling high on, putting out my first books. And then we kind of became a diet Midnight's Edge is the way I would put it.
Yeah.
But where things just got so much happier was when we decided to just start reviewing things, and it especially helped once we started reviewing the same things at the same time. Truly an innovative model of YouTubery that had never been done before.
Yeah.
It's honestly just been it's been much more enjoyable, and it's exposed us to a lot of movies, good and bad, that we would never have stumbled upon on our own.
Indeed. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Big thank you to everybody for tuning in and watching us. For the last 100 shows or plus that with if you've stuck around during the Tuesdays with Story Days, in which DB alluded to earlier. But yeah, we've been enjoying this very much, and we're it's a fun thing for us to do, and to come on here and talk about stuff that we enjoyed or stuff maybe we didn't really enjoy that much, or
Yep. And it really does help us with our own writing, just because we can kind of digest what does and doesn't work.
Indeed. Yes. Speaking of which, if you're watching on YouTube, the links are all down below for our books.
Yes. And also, so is that pesky like button.
Mm-hmm.
And if for some reason you've watched it this far and you hate our guts, tell us why.
Yes. Yeah. And there's also that subscribe button there. As Valiant Renegade would say, turn that subscribe button to gray and hit those notifications.
Indeed. Now, our guest will be joining us in roughly an hour, so we have a bit less time than we normally do. So we're going to dispense with our normal box office summary.
Yes, which was just Inside Out 2 at the top again. That's
Inside Out 2 continuing to steal all the money, and the Bike Riders came out and made money.
Yes.
Okay. It really hasn't changed in the last couple of weeks.
No.
So let's talk about our quote-unquote new movie of the week. Normally we used to have a rule where it would have to be a movie that had come out within at least the last year.
Yeah.
But thanks to a little series of writer strikes that happened last year, it's actually been fairly hard to track down a new movie on streaming that we thought was interesting to talk about.
Yes, yeah. So we've been doing new-ish. So basically, in the last, I would say, probably what 4 years, 5 years,
This decade.
this decade, yes. And thankfully, yes, this yeah, our first review it did come out in this decade.
I'm going to get my screen shared.
Yes.
Boop. There we go.
All right. Yes. So we watched
The,
Eurovision.
the Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams comedy that it feels redundant to call this a strange one. But it's a strange one.
Yeah.
Daniel, what's this movie about?
Okay. So this movie is about a couple named Lars and Sigrid. Lars is played by Will Ferrell. Sigrid's played by Rachel McAdams. They are from Iceland, and they have a love of music, which they shared from when they were kids, and they want to be a big singing duo, and they want to get on Eurovision, which is this big European singing competition. And of course, Will Ferrell's he's living with Will Ferrell. Lars is living with his father, who is played by Pierce Brosnan, and so they've kind of have to get going with their singing stuff, and they managed to get in by luck of the draw into the Iceland uh,
Yeah,
stage of it. Yeah.
literally the luck of the draw because, well, we have 11 qualified contestants. Well, we need a 12th by the rules. And just pull into the submission bag.
Yeah, they just literally just pulled their CD out. Yeah, yeah, and because that's of course it doesn't. They say, well, it doesn't matter because they have this one singer. I can't remember her name, but it was played by Demi Lovato, who's like, oh, she's going to be the star and she's going to win the whole thing. And of course, by the rules with Eurovision, whoever the winner is, the country that they're from is the host country for the next year's competition. And so the guy from the Icelandic bank is just like, I don't know if we can afford that.
Yeah, I believe the last time I looked it up, Iceland has a adult population of about 100,000 people.
Mhm.
Let's just go ahead and double check that. Demographics of Iceland.
Yeah, because I remember a few years back there was somebody mentioned that it's about the size of Corpus Christi.
Yeah. Okay. Just over as of 2022, the Icelandic population was just over 376,000,
Yeah.
with about a quarter of them of foreign background of some sort. Interestingly,
Yeah.
um,
Um, yeah.
but they were saying that the average attendance for a Eurovision show is about 500,000. So not really sustainable for them.
No, no, definitely not. But so Lars and Secret end up in the singing competition, and one of the gags in the movie is that every time they go up to perform, it just goes off the rails. Like something goes wrong,
Something
and
catastrophic happens.
right. And in this case with Iceland, when they're in Iceland, uh, Lars was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go talk to the lighting people," and then the lighting people are like, "You're on after her." He's like, "Oh
Yeah.
crap!"
Yeah, he showed up very late and fell off the stage, and
Yeah,
well, no, he fell off of, like, they had these wires, and he fell out of his wires, I believe.
right. Yeah, yeah.
But
Um,
it all seems lost, and they're not going to get to be in the show, and it's just all miserable. And then the boat explodes,
yeah, yeah. The boat with all of the contestants on it blows up, and
except
they're
for them.
yes,
Now, my trope senses started to tingle, and I wondered if that had been an intentional thing by the banker.
yes, yeah, and I got that feeling too when when Lars and Sigrid end up going to Scotland to compete, and the banker's like, oh, that's like, well, they're really terrible, and like, oh, that's and the banker's like, oh, that's really good.
Yeah. that I'll admit that was so obvious. I almost started wondering if it was a red herring of some sort, or just a random happenstance.
Yeah.
So let's take a step back. So we've laid the stage. We're set the stage.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, okay. So Will Ferrell's character, the opening scene has them in the late 70s, and his mother has died, and he's a small child, probably about 6 or so, I would think.
Yeah.
And they see ABBA singing Waterloo on TV, and he starts dancing along with it. And that's the moment when he declares that he's going to be in Eurovision someday.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so he brings his childhood um, love interest slash friend Sigrid along with him. Everyone thinks that he is weighing her down because he's just a loser and she's the real talent. But
Right.
but
Yeah.
but she loves him because she was a mute child until he got her talking and singing.
Yeah.
And her mother's like, "Look, that was just Abba, but it was also him, mother, but it was mostly Abba."
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing: I was really thinking about the math on this.
Mhm,
It seems to take place in present year, so 2019, 2020.
mhm.
Uh, if they were waiting to like trying to get into Eurovision from the you know that year until 2020, yeah, he objectively wasted her life until they got lucky.
Yeah. And hey, Ninja, good to see you. No, not quite a documentary.
Maybe maybe in the same degree of accuracy as Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
So so he's a classic loser character, and his dad, played by one of the James
Yeah.
Bonds,
Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce
Yeah.
Brosnan. Thank you. Has no use for him. So it's a classic underdog story where you have somebody who seems like a huge loser who's just trying to prove themselves.
Yeah.
Now I will say that first off, Eurovision and the culture around Eurovision is kind of resistant to parody because it is so larger than life and flamboyant.
Yes. Yeah. I noticed that.
Like just from having watched a few Eurovision songs and music videos over the years, none of these, and also just knowing things like various types of Europop, due to liking Eurobeat from things like Initial D.
Mm,
None of these songs would have seemed too unusual if you just happened to show them during uh, a Eurovision show.
yeah. Yeah.
So this is less of like a parody of Eurovision as it is like a loving tribute.
Mm,
Also, I didn't really bother looking into who wrote this. I wouldn't be too surprised if they did turn out to be Icelandic or to know Icelandic people, because there's some details that had come up in my own writing that came up here, like
mm,
the uh, the Demi Lovato character, the ringer. She comes from a small city called Keflavik, which in which was a big music scene in the 60s and 70s. It was actually called the Beatles town or the Beatles city locally because
uh,
it had such like a rock scene,
mm,
which I ended up using in book 5 of my series. And it's like having her from there. They said, "Oh, she's great. She's from Keflavik." Like that was just taken as like, well, of course she's great. She's from the Beatles town.
yeah.
So that encouraged that, or that validated that choice I had made creatively. Um, so so again, you're not exactly parodying Eurovision itself. It's more of like a loving send up, like
Yeah.
because I can't imagine that the big dance number in the middle we were meant to find weird or to laugh at, even though there was a lot of over the topness in there. I also got the impression that if we were more plugged into Europop, we would have gone, that's Sven Fjorgensen
Yeah.
or something like that. Just because you know how like when you're watching something and there's like a pause or like a lingering camera shot, and you're like, I'm supposed to know who that is.
Yeah.
Kind of like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in Airplane,
Yeah.
which they were eventually good enough in that movie to explain it, just in case you weren't following along.
Yeah. You tried dragging Walton and Lanier up and down the court.
Now, as far as okay, so if they aren't really parodying Eurovision
Mhm.
per se, where's the humor coming from? Um, Funny voices.
Yeah.
You have two people who are not Icelandic putting on what I think are reasonable Icelandic accents
Yeah.
and
They
saying certain things in weird orders.
yeah, and they are they do slip every now and then. I noticed they into their North American accents, but yeah, yeah.
There's a decent setup with Rachel McAdams' character believes deeply in fairies, which is actually a fairly common belief in Iceland itself.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and Will Ferrell's like there's no such thing. Why you keep going? Yeah,
Uh,
she goes up to their little house.
she's made them some little houses,
Yeah,
and she leaves them like food and wine and stuff.
yeah,
But that does eventually pay off in the end.
yes,
So you got funny voices, you got a lot of pratfalls, so just a lot of
mhm,
physical humor. Daniel mentioned before that for a good chunk of the movie they end up falling down, or like just every bad thing that can happen does happen.
yeah, yeah.
Um, would you say this is an especially funny movie?
Uh, aside from like the pratfalls, not really.
Yeah, I couldn't quite tell. Like, okay, is this supposed to be a fairly straightforward story with some silly window dressing, or is this just a failed comedy?
Yeah,
Now, if you take it as just a fairly straightforward story with some silly window dressing, it's stronger on that basis.
yeah, I'd say so.
I could not laugh a minute. I will say that Will Ferrell's character is a bit unlikable, and
Hmm.
it is kind of his typical type where he's not a man child, like he's a man teenager, so like very selfish.
Yeah, yeah, it very much like I will say though he wasn't quite as over the top in this movie as he usually is in his movies. Like Ricky Bobby and oh, what was the other one? The figure skating one.
That's what this one kept reminding me of. It's like a spiritual successor to that one,
Yeah, yeah,
although with less homophobia.
yeah, yeah.
Let's see. Now, as far as I would say that the actual music itself is pretty good if you like Europop.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there was one character we forgot to mention. The conflict was you kind of have this little love triangle going between with Lars Sigrid and then this Russian singer um, whose name
Right.
is escaping me, but he was played by the guy from Downton Abbey. Um,
Well, we can just call him the Russian.
the Russian, yeah, who may or may not be gay. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
but as he assures us, there are no gay people in Russia.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Oh boy. um, but yeah. So like he's more encouraging of Sigrid than Lars, and Lars doesn't like that. And yeah.
That's the thing, is that the movie is very much about Lars and Sigrid, and Sigrid has always kind of been Lars's little obedient puppy, and
Hmm.
this is about her growing outside of that.
Right. Yeah. Um,
Let's have a little bit of spoiler talk, because I think
okay.
that uh, I will say that as far as disappointments go, I kind of wish the banker had been more of a constant presence because he does show up again to enact some evil, and we do find out he was the one who bombed the boat at the start to try to eliminate the entire delegation.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I was I was kind of hoping it would be like in the Pink Panther when what was his name, the Inspector Dreyfus was always trying to kill Clouseau. I thought it'd do something kind of like that.
Right, and mix that with like a springtime for Hitler type thing.
Yeah, yeah. Where did we go right?
Right, exactly. And that is that is a good tie-in where because Iceland got hit very hard in the 2008 financial crisis.
Yeah,
Um, a lot of property speculation is my
yeah,
understanding, and a lot of currency speculation because they were a market that was, I don't think they're in the EU, but at the very least they were EU friendly, but they didn't use the euro, so that made the Icelandic kroner a place to speculate on if you were in Europe,
yeah.
which meant that the price of the kroner got bid up and up and up and up and up until it wasn't.
Yeah. Not good.
As I vaguely recall from classes 15 years ago or so.
Yeah.
Anyhow, the way he gets dealt with is kind of funny, but you know, I think that they could have milked some more conflict out of making him more of a character.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Because it just kind of felt like shoehorned in.
Yeah, I think if I was going to give this a rating, not on like a 1 to 10 score, but more on like a where does it fall in? This is a classic Netflix movie where if this had been put out in theaters, it would have probably made like 20 million its entire run, and there would have been hand wringing headlines. Why can't Will Ferrell launch a movie anymore? And
Yeah, yeah.
but you put this kind of unchallenging schlock on Netflix, and it's just fine.
Yeah.
I don't feel like my time was wasted. It just didn't have a whole lot of. It didn't bring the laughs quite as much, and it didn't have a lot of food for thought.
No, it didn't. Yeah, it definitely felt like Will Ferrell was trying to get back to his roots from the late 2000s and early 2010s, and it just didn't really work.
No, I would say this is perfect as like background noise because you won't miss a whole lot if you're just doing the dishes while this is on in the background.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that's an accurate assessment.
Plus, with the frequent Eurovision songs, even if you're not paying attention to the story, you'll get some decent music to listen to.
It's true.
Um, I believe that is all we have to say about that one.
Yeah, I think we. Oh. There's one bit that they do in there that really you couldn't figure it out why they were doing this bit until like the very end, and it was a lot of people think that Lars and Sigrid are brother and sister.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and so like, oh, are you brother and sister? And Sigurd's like, no, we're not. And Lars is like, well, we're probably not. We're like, what? And then it's not until the end of the movie you find out, well, that Lars's dad, who's Pierce Brosnan, guy who's James Bond, was a bit of a Lothario,
Yeah, his character took after him, so
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the better bits in the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'd say like this week it was kind of we didn't have a whole lot of expectations for a lot of what we watched, but I think we had slightly more expectations for our second movie,
Yes.
Death Wish 2.
Yes.
Do you believe in Jesus? because you're gonna meet him.
Yeah.
That one line is why, despite some recommendations I had,
Mhm.
uh, I opted to have us not skip it and go right to 3, because it sounds like 3 is where the series just embraces how ridiculous it is.
Yes, yeah, I believe 3 is where Paul Kersey, Charles Bronson shoots a guy with a grenade launcher.
So, so for those of you who didn't catch the original Death Wish review we did,
Mhm.
we were both kind of pleasantly surprised by it, because there are some movies that just get movie series that just get kind of a reputation, and I'd always gotten the impression that this was a completely ridiculous series. And the answer is, at least going by the first one, no, it's a partially ridiculous series.
Yes, yeah, yeah. 'Cause the first movie was definitely is darker, dark and gritty, with some underlying social commentary, and some very good acting performances.
A unique soundtrack.
Unique soundtrack, yeah. Um, and then which I'm trying to remember what year that came out. Was it 74, 75?
74 sounds right. Let's find
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Death Wish movie. 1974. You were
74.
correct.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, so this movie, and then for some reason, 8 years later, they decided to do a sequel to this movie because, probably because the producers on the movie, Golan and Globus, who are the guys from Canon Films, wanted to do a sequel.
Okay. It, it's all coming together now. What was the first one? Also Canon Films?
I don't believe so. No, I think that was Paramount.
Okay. It's all coming together.
Yeah, yeah. For those of you who don't know, Canon Films was an independent studio in mostly in the 80s. They were very they did a lot of very low budget schlocky B movies, mostly action. A lot of Chuck Norris's movies were Canon movie films.
Wasn't Superman 4 a Canon movie?
Yes. Uh, yeah, yeah. As was Masters of the Universe, with Dolph Lundgren and Frank Langella.
Okay, so having that little bit of extra information, first off, it explains why the producers' names were so prominently all over the credits.
Yeah.
But also, it explains why this kind of went schlocky.
Yes. Yes, this movie, very schlocky and more exploitative. Um, so I guess we'll get into the plot.
Quick summary for those who missed Death Wish 1 somehow.
Mm,
So, it's a vigilante movie, and I always just think of him as Charles Bronson, so I never actually remember his name in the
uh,
movie.
Paul.
Paul. So Paul was a mild-ish mannered architect. I say mild-ish mannered because he was a crack shot from his military days.
Hmm.
But he'd moved on with his life. And everything was going great. He had a successful architectural firm. He had a loving wife and daughter. The daughter had a useless husband who did not make his way into the second movie.
No.
Um, and everything was great until one day a group of toughs just randomly decide, one of them was Jeff Goldblum,
Yeah.
decide to follow him home and uh, find out where he lives. And was he in the building at the time in that one?
No, he wasn't there. I think he
That's
was
right.
at work.
That's right. They go in there and they proceed to violently
Uh,
violent the
beef.
daughter and mother.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. The wife. The wife died, and then daughter became basically catatonic from the trauma.
And so he proceeded to, after some soul searching, after some misadventures in the Southwest, he decides that he's just going to be judge, jury, and executioner for everybody who goes around uh, participating in the 1970s New York crime wave.
Yes. Yeah.
And the movie kind of, it kind of delves into kind of the effects of having that type of predator of criminals around.
Yeah.
And they did although the local police figure out who he is, they don't want to make a martyr of him, so they politely suggest that he go find somewhere else to live. However, at the end of the last movie, that was Chicago. This movie takes place in Los Angeles, likely because that's where the Canon offices were, and it was cheaper to shoot in Los Angeles. If I had to guess,
Yeah.
because I don't care who you are in the 70s. Oh yeah, I want to get away from crime and everything. I'll go to Los Angeles. Perfect.
Oh yeah.
To be fair, Chicago is also kind of a lateral move, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. But yeah, so Paul's in LA, and his life is kind of getting back to normal. He moved his daughter out there too, and his daughter seems to be getting better, even though she's not talking. He's got a new girlfriend who's a reporter at a radio station where he's friends with the owner, and he's working on building a new building for the guy. But then when he's out and about with his girlfriend and his daughter, he runs afoul of some hoodlums. They mug him and take his wallet, but he chases one of them down, beats him up, and just
that was the one who was played by Lawrence Fishburne, right?
No, it's a different one. Lawrence Fishburne was the one who had the Geordie LaForge visor.
That's right.
Yeah. But he doesn't do anything to him, and then of course they get mad because he chased down and beat one of them up. So of course they have his wallet, they have his driver's license, so they have his address. You can probably guess where this is going.
Yeah. That's interesting. I was just looking up the actors. Thomas Duffy played the character Nirvana, who was kind of the final boss of the gang.
Oh, the big guy? Yeah.
Like the last one standing, basically. Apparently, he was a paleontologist in the Lost World Jurassic Park. So these movies have a weird tie to the Jurassic Park series.
Yeah. Wow.
But anyhow, so here's the thing. In the previous movie, the event was kind of shocking and unexpected, and some details happened, but it felt like you were supposed to be uncomfortable, and that was the point, was to show an awful event that would propel a ordinary citizen to making those types of decisions that he made.
Yeah.
This time around, it took longer, involved the maid got passed around, and then the daughter got taken elsewhere, and the daughter, well, she didn't get passed around, but she still got used again. And once she was done being used, she proceeds to run away, jump out of a window, and impale herself on a metal spike.
Yeah.
The thing is, the first one felt like it was uncomfortable for a point. I almost feel like that was this one. All of those scenes were supposed to seem cool or titillating somehow.
Yeah. It was really awful. Yeah. I don't know if they were being edgy for the sake of being edgy, or like I said, this was more exploitative, and I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, for the first movie, what I'll say is that I would tell somebody who was squeamish about it, suffer through it. It makes context for the rest of the movie. Mm-hmm. If somebody felt like they wanted to watch this one, I would probably just tell them, as soon as you see it. Here's what happens. Here's your timestamp for timestamp to where the movie proper can resume.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so after this, you know, Paul is, he's just obviously, he's kind of like, he's a bit like Michael Corleone in The Godfather 3. I try to get out and they pull me back in.
Yep. And so basically what happens next is that the first movie happens again. In fact, they even bring in the kind of lovable schlub police chief from the previous movie who
Yeah.
gets sent out. Was he the chief or just a detective?
I use a detective.
The
Yeah.
detective, that's right. They send out the lovable schlub police detective to Los Angeles to track him down because, oh, well, if the LAPD realized that we let him get away, that's our jobs. Schlub police detective, you're a year away from retirement.
Yeah.
You won't get your pension.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I can't think of the last time I saw a sequel that was so blatantly just the first movie over again. I'm going to be honest.
The Hangover 2.
I have not seen either of the Hangover movies yet, but
Oh yeah.
that's the reputation.
Yeah. The Hangover 2 is basically the Hangover 1, except it's in Bangkok instead of Las Vegas.
I feel like that one had to be more different than this one was.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say is that like where the first one felt like it had a message, this one felt like it wanted to pretend it had a message
Yeah.
because they kept throwing in like symbolism, but they didn't really like elaborate on it.
Yeah. They kind of do. They try to a little bit with how should um how should criminals be treated? Should they just be locked away in prison, or should they be rehabilitated? They should have
Mhm.
therapy and da 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 da. They touched on that a little bit, but not a lot.
It doesn't really impact the plot at all.
Yeah.
The only impact it has is that it's a wedge between him and his reporter girlfriend.
Yeah.
And even then, it's not like they don't really have it out because he's just very secretive about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and he one of the things and what he does when he's tracking down the hoodlums is he goes to like I don't know if it necessarily if it was Skid Row or somewhere near Skid Row, and he
Awful lot of street churches for Skid Row.
yeah,
It was like on the edges of Skid Row.
probably, yeah. And he gets a little apartment, kind of like a little hideout for his nightly activities. Um, and he manages to track down one of them, and that's of course the scene DB alluded to with the "Do you believe in Jesus? You're gonna meet him."
Yeah. I feel like one place where they're trying to get some symbolism in, and also just to kind of show how grimy it was that the place where these criminals were meeting up was just swarming with rats. Charles almost stepped on them a couple of times on his way padding down the steps.
Yeah, yeah, yes. I will say the one difference between this movie and the first one was in the first one he didn't try to track down the people who attacked his family. In this one, he does.
Right. This is a
Yeah.
more laser directed revenge.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say it doesn't get too over the top with the action scenes like like the next ones do, but it does feel a little lazy.
Yeah, like it's very much a retread. And most of the action scenes aren't all that interesting.
Yeah, and it very like really over the top death scenes. That somebody gets shot and they just be like, oh. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. So we got through one good one liner. I guess the last fight scene that takes place at that hospital was kind of interesting. You,
Yeah.
you know what the big missed opportunity was? It's actually kind of similar to what we had to say about the Eurovision Song Contest one, which is weird with that as a tie-in, but here we go.
Yeah.
Um, much the same way that in that movie, the evil banker could have been more of a presence through the movie. Imagine if one of the hoodlums had been captured early on and was getting treatment at the facility. Like, instead of him being captured in the 11th hour, and then he just shows up after he's been there less than a day or so to execute him. Imagine if it seemed like he was reforming, but it turned out like, this movie is very much against the whole rehabilitation thing, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
if you wanted to make that point, early on, one of the criminals escapes him and into the long arms of the law. He gets put in there, and it looks like he's making steps towards recovery, but it turns out he's just playing the system and is, dealing drugs out of the hospital pharmacy or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like Alex DeLarge in Clockwork Orange, where he's like, "Oh no, they think I'm reformed. I'm not really reformed."
Right. I just had that kind of thing, and that would have actually strengthened the theme of the movie, but that would have required filming multiple scenes at the hospital, which probably would have been expensive
Yeah.
because they would have had to build more than just the one section of the hospital. So there we go.
Yeah. Yeah, and as we pointed out, the Canon films not really known for their big budgets.
Yeah. Where the movie also tries to pretend that it has something to really say, it keeps piling on the religious imagery,
Hmm. Yeah.
which very lazily done.
Yes. Um, and and you mentioned the music in the first movie. What's funny is the music in this movie was done by Jimmy Page, guitarist for Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, and what's really funny about that, my comment as we were watching the opening of the movie was, wait a second, this is the soundtrack that they were always parodying on The Simpsons whenever they did McBain, with
Yeah.
like the generic rock doodling.
Yeah. Yeah,
In fact,
yeah. All those Simpsons references are finally starting to make sense.
yeah, like we watched 48 Hours and went, oh, this is where McBain came from. This is also kind of where McBain came from.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, Bronson has been heavily parodied on The Simpsons.
Down to there being a Bronson, Missouri.
Yeah,
Yo, mom, I want some ice cream.
no dice.
This ain't over.
Yeah,
Speaking of Bronson, I feel like he was trying with the material he had.
yeah,
If I'm just being very fair, like he's not bad in it, but there's like I don't know. I felt like there was like this unspoken gravitas he brought to the first one that just wasn't here because the material didn't really lend itself to it.
no, and yeah, he's just kind of like walking around and trying to look tough and yeah, you could kind of tell he was just kind of like, okay, I got to do this for 100 grand. Ugh.
Ugh. Uh, 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 I got principles, but I also got a mortgage.
Yeah, yeah,
Speaking of principles, so we talked about how the one scene was very tawdry. The tawdry is not isolated to the one scene. Like,
no,
say he's busting up a drug den, and there's a high woman listening to a set of headphones, topless for no reason,
yeah,
and she was not hired for acting chops.
no,
He comes across the crooks in another scene, uh, trying to be violently violent with another woman and her husband. And darn, wouldn't she know it? He didn't show up in time to save her dress.
no.
What a coincidence!
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like, as memory serves, the first one really only had any sort of what you'd call like the R-rated material in that one scene.
Yeah.
This one, it's like, oh well, people like that, so we'll just sprinkle it throughout.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of a problem with a lot of Hollywood studios is they learn the wrong lesson for why a movie was good. You know, they think, oh well, they like that movie because of this. It's like,
Right.
well, so we just need to
Look,
put more of that in there.
look, it's Charles Bronson going around shooting down hoodlums of varying ethnicities. Uh,
Yeah,
and the hoodlums have no personality outside of wanting to hood.
yeah,
And uh, I would almost say that in like some of the violent scenes, there were some undertones with some of the African American members of the gang that seemed a little suspect to me. I don't know.
yeah. This was the 1980s. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, but anyways, yeah, like we'll have Charles Bronson. He'll have his daughter raped, and he's on the path for revenge, and uh, we'll have sex and nudity and violence, and it'll be all the things people want. And that will basically make the same movie over again, but more. That'll be
yeah,
better, right?
mm,
No
yeah.
dice.
No dice. Yeah, yeah. And I kind of made the comparison with this franchise with the Rambo franchise because it kind of both of these franchises kind of took a similar trajectory where like the first movie had like a message to it, even though it was violent, it had a lot of action in it, but it had like it had a message to it, had commentary, it had
A point.
a point, yeah. And then the sequels are just like, oh, well, people like Rambo, Sylvester Stallone, going around and shooting people with a big gun, and
What if we did more of that?
well, yeah, let's just do more of that, yeah. You know, like, well, let's do Rambo 2. Oh, okay, well, we'll send him to Vietnam. Okay, yeah, and then, well, what about Rambo 3? Well, let's send him to Afghanistan. Do the exact same same movie.
Right. Meanwhile, this is like a weird halfway house because I suspect if we eventually get to Death Wish 3 that we will have a good time with it because
Yeah,
it will be over the top and crazy and just embrace it. But this movie's like a weird halfway point that just doesn't quite work, unfortunately.
no, it doesn't. Yeah,
So darn it, my friends knew better. I should have listened to them and just skipped right to
it's
3. But it was that one line that I saw in a review ages ago that has stuck in my mind. Do
yeah.
you believe in Jesus? Well, you're going to meet him. And it wasn't even all that epic in the moment. So
No, it wasn't. Yeah,
it's like when I watched Animal House all over again, where I had seen all of the moments taken out of context, and in context they didn't seem as grand
yeah,
because I was getting like the most punchy moment of it, you know, hundreds of times over the years versus, and
yeah,
it was the same thing with this one.
yeah.
Ah, well.
Oh well, yeah, yeah. Can't win them all.
Yeah. Well, that has left us in the awkward position of having a few minutes left to go until our guest arrives.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
how about them Knicks? I don't know. I don't know anything about basketball, but
uh,
um,
well, I don't either.
well, in that case, let's go ahead and we'll take a quick break. Let's see
Yes.
here. And I will be right back,
Yeah,
just so I'm ready for Edward.
yeah, me too. Oh,
Edwin.
Edwin. Yes,
I work with Edward.
no. All right. Well, while we wait for DB to return, I guess I will talk about. Oh, hey, welcome back.
I'm here. So I want people to. Summer in Seattle is so ridiculous. I want people to guess what the temperature is today.
I'm gonna say 78.
60 degrees, and it's raining.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
That is life in the Pacific Northwest. Last weekend, I set up my air conditioner
Wow.
because we had a couple days of 80, and then it just dropped down like the day after I set it up.
Wow. Well, it's a lot cooler that you in your part of the world than it is where I am. I can say that.
That's because you moved down to Florida.
That's right. Yeah, it's in the 90s. Well, it'll say it'll be 91, but then you look at the heat index as it 91 feels like 102.
Oof.
Yeah.
Gotta love the humidity.
Oh yeah. Well, I will go ahead and send Edwin the link just in case if maybe he wants to come on a little early.
Sounds good.
But Ninja says he finished watching X-Men 97 last week. He enjoyed it more than we did. The only part he needed tweaking was the Jubilee Roberto arc. Yeah, that was kind of wasted.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit more about X-Men 97 while we wait.
Yeah.
So I would agree. The thing with Julie and Roberto is that they were kind of with Roberto. And I'll just go ahead and pull up an image just in case you feel like snipping this out.
All right.
7 images. Yeah, it seems like a perfectly good image to show off X-Men 97. I'm on the Disney. Yeah, what the heck? Well, I'll just go ahead and show off the Disney Plus page for it.
All right.
That's a decent background.
Yeah.
Okay. So X-Men 97 Revisited.
Yes.
So we've had wow, has it already been like 2 months since that finished?
Thereabouts, yeah.
At least one, yeah.
Yeah.
So having had some more time to sit on it, I would say that I agree with Ninja that the Jubilee and Roberto arc was a bit besides the point.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like it was a retread of the Iceman from the X-Men movies gay allegory thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. With his parents, yeah.
Right, like with his parents. It's okay if you're a mutant, but we can't let it be known that you're a mutant because the people will be scandalized.
Yeah. And Ninja says he would also say that it would benefit from more episodes. Yes, yeah. But you really have to rework the entire season to remove. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like if I was gonna make cuts, I think that whole mini episode that the Jubilee had could be pretty safely cut.
Yeah,
the video game one.
Oh yeah, and he says Roberto's mother was white and he had trouble with his dad.
Okay, I'm not enough of a New Mutants scholar to. I've read some New Mutants comics, but I never read any of them that dealt with Roberto's family. The character I remember that I just happened to know about from the Marvel comics, there was some woman who had, like, she had some sort of fire powers, I think, and she was from this lost tribe of Romans from the Amazon. Like, it was like this Romans who had somehow ended up in South America in a very Roman city in the middle of the Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
Which, as wacky sci-fi fantasy concepts go, is kind of cool, but I don't the fact that I can't think of the character's name and she doesn't seem to come up in discussion anymore tells me that
Yeah.
that she has not had a lot of staying power.
Oh yeah. Oh, and well, our guest is here, so why don't
Good, so we can stop rehashing X-Men '97.
Yes.
A flawed gem. Let's.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I'll go ahead and make the introduction here. So we've had Edwin on before. He is the creator of the Ace series. He's also written Raid of the White Leopard, as well as Bloodborne. Yeah. But tonight he's talking about the new his new comic book, The Ace Volume 3. Here he is, Edwin.
Yes.
Hey, man.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Not a whole lot. We wrapped up the reviews early, so we like to claim that our stuff has thematic ties. But I think we want to break that because we don't want to have another disappointing sequel. So tell us about
Yes.
Volume 3.
Yeah, so Ace Volume 3, man, and obviously third part in what I see as like the 4-part original kind of arc to start the Ace series with. To get everybody kind of caught up, give you the cliff notes. Ace is about a young man who's trying to find his purpose in life. And one day he discovers the remains of a shooting star. And what he finds in the wreckage gives him the ability to transform into a powerful armored being. And unbeknownst to him, he has become the most sought after object in the entire universe, as aliens from across the galaxy are looking to track him down and take the armor back for their own, special needs and agendas. So yeah, it's been a wild ride so far. 3 issues in, I think this is the best Ace so far. I think, we've leveled up the art, the colors, even the letters. I think the story kind of, we take everything that we built up in the first 2 issues and we kind of pace a lot of that stuff off. So yeah, it's a really fun ride.
Nice. Yeah. Well, let's bring up the campaign here.
Yes. So first off, let's see here. I'm not set up to share audio, but we can watch the trailer in a moment.
Okay.
But so first off, you have the late arrival bundle with all 3 issues.
Okay.
Then we got the digital bundle, digital comics.
Yeah. Got your physicals here.
Yep. Physicals for them individually if you don't need all 3.
Yeah.
Blank sketch cover. Who's doing the sketch for that one? Or is there going to be a sketch for that one?
It won't. It's just a blank for any artist friend. That's a limited. I think it's only 50 available. So it's just for any artist out there who wants to take a shot at the Ace. Maybe I'll get a couple myself to commission people, just for my own personal collection. But yeah, it's the first time we're doing a sketch cover. Like I did one for Bloodbone, and it came out really well. So I talked to Shelby, and he ended up helping me design this one also. So yeah, it's this one for all the artists out there.
Nice.
Yep, neat feature. Then we got the digital bundle. Save $5 versus buying them individually. And ooh, action figure.
Yeah, Ace retro figure. It's kind of based on the old WWF Hasbros from the 90s. It's a fun little limited kind of assortment that we made. It sold pretty well so far. There's only 4 left, so super happy about that.
Nice.
Yeah, that's neat. Caught me by surprise as I was going down. Got some more comic bundles. And we got a collectible card here. Only 1 available.
Yeah, Shelby did 3 for the campaign, and 2 have sold so far.
Wow. And
Yes,
sold all your the Joe Ball stuff all sold.
Oh, that's new. Thank you to whoever grabbed the last Joe Ball card. I thought there was still 1 available last time I checked it. So somebody snagged it. Those are already in hand, so those will go out quick.
Suffering from success.
Yeah.
Yep. Now let's take a look at some of this art, and oof, that is a beautiful cover.
Yeah, it's Dan Dahl colors by Eugene. I'm a big fan of Dan and his style. everything he's done. I was able to catch him during one of his rare free open times to get commission. So yeah, big X-Men fan, so I definitely had to tribute the X-Men on that one. Anybody who's collected 90s X-Men knows there's tons of covers with the X-Men running at their enemies, whether it's Magneto or Apocalypse and stuff. So we wanted to do something similar, but give it its own twist. So,
yeah, this definitely has a sort of Rob Liefeld or Jim Lee feel to it.
Yeah.
I mean, and who can say no to an alien cyborg shark shooting a big, ridiculous gun at an unseen enemy?
I mean, Akula's back. He's a crowd favorite, so we had to bring him back, get him back in the mix in this one.
Oh, so, yeah, he's a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's great.
Then we got some sample art of the interiors, and
very nice.
Yeah, there's some artist who this is reminding me of from like the old days, but I can't think of who it is. Okay, now I see why there was a guy named Crocuta in the trading cards.
Yeah, that's the new threat, the Haiyan. They're very much based on like the old Klingons. Very kind of warlike. They're basically run by whoever's the strongest. And as you can see, Crocuta's the strongest. So he gets the nice skull thrown there. Then the brother said.
Yeah, I like the detail back here that the panel is partway open. Like, look, man, maintenance is done by the week.
Exactly. Hey, look, if it doesn't need to be fixed, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Loving the ship designs too. Those are awesome.
Yeah, Canales did a great job. We kind of like this kind of.
Oh, that's right. Ibai is doing the art for the interiors, right?
Yep, Ibai and Hao was doing all the colors.
Okay,
they're back from issue 2.
See, that's what was throwing me off. Is thanks to what was Zach's comic that Ibai did?
Iron Sights.
Iron Sights. Iron Sights. I always think of Ibai as black and white. So seeing him in color.
Yeah, I think I might be the only comic he's done that's colors. I'm pretty sure Expendables was black and white too.
I don't think he. The Zach's Expendables comic was in color, but Ibai didn't do.
Not that one. It was about an alien a human that got captured by aliens.
Oh,
Abductables. That's what it was. Abductables.
Yeah. Okay. And then, of course, we got some, like the last one, we have some shorter stories here with different artists.
Yeah, the epilogue story this time is by How Comics. He draws in our colors, his own work, just absolutely beautiful, like pages, and just super creative guy, man. Like a super underrated.
Wow.
Yeah, this dragon makes me think of like an '80s rock album.
Mm-hmm.
You can just about hear the guitar riff as it emerges from the water.
Yeah.
Then let's take a look at our action figure here. Handcrafted resin action figure. So I'm kind of curious about the creative process for these things. Where are they being made?
There you go.
Oh yeah, I was looking at the.
Yeah, there we go.
At the campaign is the thing. Oh, okay. So it looks like it has a point of articulation in the middle there.
Yeah, it's got the waist, the neck moves. I just don't like to move it when the helmet and obviously both arms move. Yeah. And then the coolest part is that you can't take the helmet off. Just gotta be careful with it.
Oh,
nice.
That's super cool. Yeah.
So who makes those?
I hooked up with this guy who does a lot of customs for a bunch of pro wrestlers. He does a lot of like the Hasbro style, but like for like local kind of indie guys. And he's a JP Customs on Instagram. And yeah, man, he's a super talented dude. Originally, I was just gonna get him to do like Ace and Street clothes, and maybe do like the big Ace kind of symbol in his chest and stuff. And then he wanted to take a shot at the armor, and I was like, "Hey, man, if you want to go for the armor, you go for it, brother. I ain't gonna stop you." And yeah, he blew me away, man. Like he's just put so much detail and care, hand painted all these. I already have them all in hand. I got them done a while ago just because I didn't want to, leave it for the campaign, for to make them. So try. There's only 10 of them, and yeah. So yeah.
Hold on now. You said, oh, you're keeping one for yourself. Gotcha. Of course you keep one for yourself.
Come on now. What are we doing here?
Exactly.
I've had Ace beat up Demolition plenty of times, Yeah.
Man, that must be so cool to have something you created in the palm of your hand like that.
The best, man. Like I had the Slam Buddy from the last campaign. I thought that was awesome. Mostly because my niece stole one of them. And she used to just beat the hell out of it for like weeks. So that was really cool. But
how did it hold up to that?
Oh, it's still good. Like Slam Buddies are surprisingly, they're meant for like little kids to beat them up, basically. Basically like so they're good. Yeah, just want to do something different this time around with the retro figure. Like I said, it just blew me away. Like the guy's just super talented. Like I said, he does a lot of custom work, takes a lot of commissions and stuff. So yeah, so hopefully, I would love to do a cooler one for Volume 4. If we can sell these out, I can justify it to myself. So, these aren't cheap and stuff. Not really making any money off them. I just want to do it. Just something cool.
Yep. Well, it looks like it is worth it so far because you're mostly backed at this point.
Yeah, man, you're close. And, we've been a steady. A lot of people seem to be doing the 1, 2, and 3 bundle. So, looks like a lot of people, like what they're seeing. So, yeah, I've been seeing a lot of new names too. Like I've been checking out every couple of days. I'll just take like a quick look just to see what perks are claimed and stuff like that. And I see like a lot of the bundles being claimed, and I see backers that I don't really recognize. It also has been a couple of years since I launched on Indiegogo. I've been also doing Fund My Comics. So,
yeah, I was curious about that. You had switched over to Fund My Comics for the last campaign you were on for. Are you back to Indiegogo because that's where the previous books were launched, or do you think Indiegogo has stepped up their game? What's the story?
It's mostly just because I wanted to keep the consistency of 1, 2, and 3 being on there. Like I just think like Ace fits Indiegogo. The other stuff is more kind of experimental and kind of trying different things. I think Ace, everybody knows. I always call it my baby. So this is the thing that I think most people know me for. So I want to keep kind of it consistent and keep putting them out on Indiegogo as long as they're fun.
Yeah. I'm of the opinion just to put your books wherever you can, wherever you can get some money from.
I'll definitely be looking to expand. I'll probably try Kickstarter out next year. It's gotta try and just go anywhere and everywhere there are comics. So it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Daniel's had pretty decent luck doing secondary Kickstarter campaigns.
Yeah. I do a very. I got Guardian Angel 1 on there right now. Just set very. Do a $500 funding goal, and it's not too bad. Yeah.
Yep, more than half funded at this point.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
But let's see. So I know that that this story is very action-packed. So spoilers would end up being like, how to put it? It would be hard to do. It'd probably be hard to describe the story too much without spoilers outside of what you've done so far. So,
I mean, it's kind of one of those things where if you spoil it, it doesn't really spoil it. Basically, like it's like Ace has to team up with Akula and Angelique against the High-End. So that basically kind of tells you where we're at. Basically it's a big team up issue. They're outgunned, they're outmanned, and they basically gotta fight off this hyena army. So it's pretty simple storytelling. But like I said, it's gonna be a lot of action, little blood. It's just gonna be like I said, I think it's really interesting seeing all these characters join together. And like I said, I think if you read 1 and 2 and you read 3 after, like you'll get a lot more out of it. Like you'll get to see things that we set up in volume 1 that pay off in volume 3, you know. So it definitely benefits the kind of the long-term story. But if this is your first one and you just want to read this one, you can pretty much get caught up. It's not in too deep where you'll be completely lost. I mean, like, yeah, I'm just those 90s, you know, X-Men issues where I could just grab like 283 and be like, it's good enough. You know, like I'll get 284, 285, and we'll get all caught up here. Like it's just, it's not that big a deal, you know. Make it accessible enough where you can still follow, even if you don't get every little detail of it.
Yep. Oh, Daniel, you want to take over for a minute and show off the trailer?
Sure.
There isn't any strikeable music in there or anything, right?
No, it's the same theme I've been using for the first two.
Cool.
Right.
I didn't think so, but my life in tech support tells me ask the dumb questions because somebody will always surprise you.
Yeah, with YouTube, you never know, man. They can strike anything. So
yeah. All right. Let me get this up here.
In a world with cyborg sharks and hot demonic alien babes. Okay, I love that panel.
Yeah.
Got
a lot of personality in that one.
Awesome.
And now it's spoiling on Daniel. It shows you what kind of YouTube stuff he's been watching.
Yeah.
But so Edwin, you got any parting words?
Yeah. First off, let me just say that during every live stream, I'm doing a special offer where if anybody backs during the live stream or around the live stream, I give a nice grace period. They'll get an exclusive bonus piece of art that's only available if you back during the live stream. It won't be available on the campaign. So, feel free to back, drop your backer number, or you can hit me up and, we'll get that to you. It's a fun little bonus piece. So trying to do a little something to promote these live streams. And yeah, man, Ace, like I said, I think it's the best one yet. Like, I think the art, the colors, the story, everything just kind of comes together in this one. Super proud of it. The main story is fully done. I just need to get the epilogue story lettered. I'm just going through some edits for the script. And yes, probably order approved by the end of July, and then we'll kind of see where we're at from there.
Nice.
Yep. You know what? I can say that everything I've ordered from Edwin, I've gotten. So you have nothing to worry
fulfilled
about.
campaigns.
Yeah.
Number 6 here.
Yeah. Well, so I feel like you mentioned that the Ace's home is Indiegogo. If you like Indiegogo comics, which I kind of see as like the 90s Renaissance, the reminder that, yeah, some 90s comics kind of went too far, like the Clone Saga, but they were mostly cool. If you just want something cool in your life, give the Ace Volume 3 a shot.
Indeed. Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. We appreciate it for our 100th show. smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell, all that good stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Edwin, thank you for joining us and making this special anniversary episode just a little more special.
Oh, man, thanks for having me on. It's always fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, see you next week, guys. Everybody.
Peace.
Good night.